Thanks everybody for taking the time to join us for another entry in the Accelerate Your Business webinar series. Today we're going to be talking about agencies, specifically around how they can balance efficiency and profitability while still establishing a culture of proactive client success to not only retain but grow customers. I'm actually just the MC today. We are joined by our two co-hosts, Zach Rego.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me, Alex. Thanks for co-hosting this with me, Jeff.
Yeah, not a problem. It's nice to have you. Zach's the global agency director over at WordStream. He lives and breathes agencies by day and by night. His wife actually works at a large agency and manages Facebook campaigns for large clothing brands. So once he goes home, he's talking about the agency life as well. And then we also have our CEO and co-founder, Jeff McQueen, who, believe it or not, used to own a digital agency, and that's how Accelo got started. He needed a tool like Accelo, so he built it himself, and here we are about 8 years later. So I'll pass it off to Jeff.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alex. And yeah, it's great to be, spending some time with you, Zach, and hopefully giving you some great advice to the many great agencies out there that are helping their clients, but maybe don't spend as much time thinking about their own business. So hopefully this is going to be helpful for all of those folks that are joining today. As Alex said, yeah, I used to run an agency, and actually it was through the frustrations of trying to scale that agency and realizing that I had all this great data and insights and workflows. We were one of Google's first partners globally for their analytics product. We just had all this amazing stuff at our fingertips for the work that we did for clients, and yet running the business itself was really quite surprisingly hard. We didn't really have tools or insights, a system, if you will, to know what was going on in the business. And so that was probably the genesis of Accelo. Certainly we've walked many miles in the shoes of our clients, but we actually decided to do things a little unconventionally. Instead of just creating a product and throwing it over the fence and hoping for the best, we actually really set out to build Accelo deliberately. So when you're using Accelo, you're not really using the stuff that we prototyped internally, which is great news for all of our clients. So yeah, great. Thanks everyone for coming today. In terms of the focus of today's webinar, as Alex said at the top, is really about how you can run a more profitable and successful agency as you grow and not lose track or lose sight of the importance of having really great client relationships. Because if the folks who are joining this call or anything like, my experience of running a service business and that about thousands of clients, generally speaking, a lot of your new business comes through referral. And so you need to make sure that you're doing great work, doing it profitably, and doing it in a way that makes your clients not just financially successful, but also really proud they chose you as their partner and trusted advisor in the work that you do. And one of the things that's interesting from looking at the data is as an agency starts to achieve more and more success and grows, life actually gets a lot harder. You could call it growing pains, but it's actually more than that. It's scaling gets more difficult. And so if you think about all the stuff you have to do in an agency and then you have to do more of it, it actually gets harder to do as you grow because of extra, friction, as well as the economics. You actually start to see some reductions in terms of your gross margins. And so if you look at why this happens, a lot of the time it's because as an agency business, particularly as one of WordStream's great partners, you're often being compensated through a combination of some fixed price retainers and then variable percentage of campaign spend. But as the campaign spend grows, there's a natural competitive pressure that comes from clients where they're like, hey, instead of 10%, now that we're spending twice as much, can we see that drop back down to 9 or 8%? Because you guys are still running the same number of campaigns probably, or close to it. You're just, doing more volume through the machine. And so that pressure that comes to see a reduction in top line revenue as a percentage is really quite a big deal, because at the same time as the business is growing, and you're seeing that top line pressure get squeezed down, your bottom line kind of cost inputs around employees, because those folks are being paid on a payroll basis with benefits and other overheads, those folks are getting paid every 2 weeks, whether you like it or not. And the consequence of that is, as the business grows, you need to have more of that cost base, all other things being equal. So you start to feel this real squeeze, this real pressure. And representing it with some little, kind of simple algebra there, like if you're looking at your revenue as being a flat fee of, let's say, $1,000 a month for a client, and then 10% of ad spend up to a certain point, then you can see that generates $2K worth of revenue. But as time skips forward, you can see that reduction, and there's a lot of algebra here, but you can see how that reduction in the percentage of ad spend, even though volume's going up, starts to have some significant impacts on the top line. And graphing that visually is really interesting. It's not quite as asymptotic as this, but this is an illustrative diagram. You just see that reduction as growth occurs, and you need to be able to therefore do more with less. So you actually need to achieve economies of scale in your agency in a way that big companies in the manufacturing industry or logistics have been able to achieve economies of scale. But the hard thing about doing that in an agency context is you're actually dealing with people, because your people costs are fixed or increasing. We've got very low unemployment in the economy at the moment, especially folks who've got skills in digital marketing. They're very much in demand. Not only as an agency, you're competing with other agencies, you've also got clients that are increasingly bringing this stuff in-house. So you've actually got channel conflict that's also manifest in talent conflict. And so it just means that as your business grows, frankly, you just need to run a better business to succeed and to thrive. Because as things step up, you're working up against that or diminishing return on the top line. So you need to do something about your bottom line. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation where you end up, getting to a point where you're kind of at a standstill, and every new client you bring on ends up, costing you as much as what they're bringing in. And that's part of the reason why so few agencies have more than 100 employees. It's a very, very small percentage. I think it's like less than 1% of agencies have more than 100 employees, because a lot of folks don't manage to crack this riddle of how to actually scale your business and to work with an economy of scale and a growth model. And so instead, you just end up getting to a point where it's just not worth it anymore. And then, of course, you see situations where folks just drop back down and just run a boutique, sort of 4-hour work week type thing. And that's great from a personal lifestyle point of view, but it's not going to help a lot of the clients out there that really need your help. When it comes to understanding this challenge, it's worth recognizing that less than half of agencies out there even say they measure profitability per client, which is kind of fascinating. And then of those, even inside of that, the scary thing is that even of the folks who say that they notice a client X or Y and how profitable that client is, a very small number then actually start to look at where their major cost base is. 70% of the costs in a professional service business are payroll, benefits, and related employee expenses. And so these folks just don't know what they're actually, generating from a revenue perspective on an employee basis, which is quite scary. So it kind of like sets up the experience that we had running an agency, and then that's been augmented thousands of times over with the experience we've had working with a lot of different clients, where if you can get your economies of scale right with a system, and that's a critical component, then you've got the opportunity to actually start to grow the bottom line at the same time or even faster than you're growing the top line. So this, for example, is just a quick screenshot here that talks about the benefits, or at least the ability to see that you've got your real-time profitability. You're able to see that kind of information. And so with a screen like this, you've loaded in your client retainers, for example, and you've got those set on a value-based pricing arrangement. But then you've got your individuals and your people that are spending lots of time and energy running campaigns, running reports, thinking of new keywords, all of the great things that they do, working with those clients and being able to see how that plays out, how that works together. And so the other part to this that was set up at the top was it's not just about being able to be more efficient from a cost perspective at the top end. It's also making sure that as your business scales, you can actually not just drive more revenue and have maintenance of your gross margins, but also deliver better service to your clients, to do better work that results in a flywheel that then leads into more referrals, being something super successful. So sort of see, okay, we've got our campaign that we've done our planning for a couple of slides earlier, and now it's time to actually run it and deliver a great result for clients. And that's another area where, from a first, like my personal perspective, it was really, really hard to run a great service business without hiring another, bunch of account managers who are basically like really smart people who are joining together emails and meetings and just trying to like keep the wheels on. And so by having a system for doing the work, we then got the economy of scale factors kick in as well, which are really, really critical for being profitable. So sort of see how having that system in place that then enables you to run the campaigns on an ongoing basis, interact with your clients, optimize and create value is really special. Why does this matter? Fundamentally, it costs so much more to acquire a new client than it does to retain an existing client. And given that cost difference, as well as the fact that new clients are often coming to us primarily through referral, why don't we invest more resources into it? Now, for a lot of firms, they'll say, I do invest a lot of resources. My resources are the account managers or CSMs, client service managers here. And the reality is that, again, it's one of those diminishing returns areas if you're just dealing with humans trying to hold things together manually. Seeing these numbers of like, a lot more account managers as a percentage of the business over time. And that build up of all of the people that are there to keep the wheels on and to reduce friction, there's a whole lot of cost and friction and frustration for those individuals. So having a way to try and like do more with less is really, really important, particularly as you grow. So we can see here that by bringing together expansion, being able to have more gross margin at the top, being able to do more with less from the top of the journey, and then being able to keep your clients, you're able to see some significant multiplier impacts. If you think of it like, setting a compass when you're on a flat salt lake and you set out driving, if you can just change the angle of that compass a few degrees and then you drive for 3 hours, that's going to have a really, really big impact on where you actually end up in 3 hours time. And so modifying these percentages and driving for these, even though they might seem like a smaller number, you might be sitting at 20% client growth instead of 30%, then you can have a material impact of your business over the next 12, 18, 24 months. So here's a few examples of some KPIs that we've seen in terms of the metrics for this account management, this CSM function for a business. So for businesses, seeing the CSM as a profit center where those CSMs are able to engage with clients, help them to frankly spend more, help them to be successful, achieve better results, more optimization, more performance in the business, then those roles actually drive revenue growth. Whereas if your CSMs are stuck, frankly, having to just hold things together and become a human version of a business system because they don't have any of the other, sort of resources available, and they're just having to jump from one email to another meeting to then trying to keep track of stuff with post-it notes or a whiteboard or a task tracking tool, then they actually are really a cost center. They're part of your investment to keep the lights on, but not really trying to grow those new customer base or expand the customers you've got. And so to get a sense of that, it's important to think about the utilization and performance of those success individuals and where are they spending their time. Is it working on, client retainers? Is it working on client accounts? Or is it a whole bunch of internal just trying to squeeze everything together? And so by taking care of a lot of the operational system stuff, you're able to see this benefit of productivity where these folks get unlocked and they're able to, do things like auto scheduling tasks. I remember from an agency point of view, like the first day of the month was always this miserable day from a management perspective, because you would have to sit down if you were using, say, traditional project management tools, which I know a lot of agencies still try and do for their retainers. And you'd have to like kick up 20, 30, 40 new projects that were the same as last month's. And then you'd have to go through and assign the work and the different tasks. And all of that really has to happen before anyone can be particularly productive in the business. Hated those days. And then, of course, the next thing after you've done all that is the misery of having to manually go back and invoice for everything that happened the month before. So once you've got a system in place to run the business, you can actually have the system automatically kick up those tasks, send out the reminders, and even calculate the invoice dimensions, and do that sort of thing automatically for you on the first of the month, which is a much nicer way to be. So what's relevant bringing this all together is that trying to run a growing agency is frankly really, really hard. The people who started them are generally really good as marketers. They're really good as analysts. They're really good as consultants. But the businesses themselves don't have a lot of fat. There's not, rivers of gold that are allowing them to just go and hire a whole bunch of clerical staff to be able to just make up for the fact that they don't have systems, they don't have a process. And the folks who are running these businesses are really, really busy. If you look at the stats there, 43% of agencies just don't have time to do these administrative tasks, which means that's why you're sitting there doing them on a Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. when you'd be much better off spending time with the family. They also don't have those processes in place, which is what stops them from growing as much as they can or they should. And of course, they don't know what rivers of gold to go out for in terms of building their revenue, because they're just trying to hold it together. And so really important to just see as much as possible the growth being enabled by a system or a platform, so that you can actually start to see economies of scale, as opposed to the good old diseconomies of scale that most of us probably have been putting up with in agency land for quite a long time.
So really setting up success and a growth path to create that profit center as a CSM starts with auditing an account when it's presented to you. So whether this be a client referral, or you trying to get a potential client to expand into a new network, you want to identify industry benchmarks. There's tons of free resources out there. WordStream promotes a bunch. We actually release a benchmarks guide every year and actually do a year-by-year comparison. So you can identify, hey, I brought on a client last year that's a dental office. How should they be performing this year in comparison? And just by nature, cost per clicks go up. It's becoming a more competitive industry. So charging that percentage of spend, gives you an opportunity to go and present your client with new opportunities for growth. And then also creating a roadmap where you're not just thinking about what they're doing today, but what they can be doing in the future. And that might be, building some display campaigns. That might be advertising on Facebook. That might be remarketing only on display and Facebook, but setting yourself up for that success and then constantly grading the campaign performance and understanding where those next areas of opportunity are is incredibly important. So we actually provide AdWords performance graders and Facebook performance graders so that agencies are able to audit where their clients are today for a last 90-day rolling average and where those areas of focus should be for growth and new opportunities. There might be something as easy as upping the amount of negative keywords we have, identifying lost impression share on a campaign basis due to ad rank. And that can really be due to cost per click bids. It could be due to quality score performance. It could be due to account structure. But when you are talking to these clients or prospects and discussing opportunities with them, you want to make sure you're thinking about, hey, you're in the dental industry. Here's what you're doing and here's what the industry is doing across AdWords or Facebook. And when you bring them in as a client, you want to make sure that you've set that goal of 3-6 months down the road, what you're going to be able to do to repair any potential missed opportunity in their current state, and then where those expansion opportunities are for growth. And building off of that, we really want to start by looking at what their goals are. And that means looking into conversion tracking. Again, when you set up conversion tracking, you don't want to think about the current state, because as their spend grows, you will want to expand into new areas. So you want to be looking for things that are happening in their account today, either tags that are potentially inactive. You can see here, there was a website lead that's now inactive. We've got some analytics tags that have no recent conversions. And then we've got calls from ads that are recording conversions. Really important that when you bring on a client and you're thinking about that growth path and that roadmap that you've created, you're setting up conversion metrics for all of the above. That might be, you want to set it up for calls, and you might only be trying to drive calls in the short term, but long term, you might be looking to get them to drive leads or appointments. So important to have that set up in the front end. And using easy tracking from WordStream or Tag Manager or any of the various tools out there is going to allow you to set up not only Google tracking, but tracking for Bing, tracking for call tracking across multiple networks, and remarketing tags, which gives you that great opportunity for growth in the future without having to implement any additional resources down the line. So now that you've actually set up the foundation, benchmarked the client's performance, identified any trends or opportunities for the future, you then want to look at account structure and budget. So really difficult to manage a campaign efficiently, especially as it scales in spend, if all of that spend is being funneled to one budget. So incredibly important to have well broken down ad groups and campaigns that have the right amount of budget allocated based on the cost per click per day, so that you're driving almost evens amounts of traffic across the campaigns. Granted, there will be some campaigns you'll want to crank up the budget on in the future based on that competitive nature, but that's going to be driven by that cost per click going up. What this allows for your CSMs to do is open up their AdWords account or Bing accounts, drill into the campaign that's going to have the highest impact for the client or the one that's struggling, and know exactly why they're working. This saves time, and it's really important to have it done on the front end so that you're accumulating the right data sets. What this also will allow your CSMs to do is make quick changes to things like promotions. We have clients that take up a ton of time because they want to change from 10% off to free shipping. Well, if we have a promotions campaign that's labeled such, we can click into there and quickly do a text replace from 10% off to free shipping and save our CSMs a ton of time, but providing a huge value to the customers. And thinking about that budget is not just what is the client willing to spend. I mean, that's sometimes a starting point, but it's really about what the client wants to generate. So resetting expectations on their budget becomes increasingly more crucial at the front end of your relationship of, hey, this is a great starting point, but if you want to generate a certain amount of leads, here's the budget that you'll need to implement. So the great way to do this and really get the client to understand, hey, where they are today is easy. We can audit, we can benchmark, we can send them a grader. We're obviously reporting on our success, but if they want 100 leads in this example, or 100 new clients in this example, and they've already told you they're willing to pay $25 per lead, the next great question for them is, what's your closing rate? Well, in this example, it's 10%, meaning they're going to need to generate 1,000 leads. They've already told you your cost per lead goal of $25, so they've got to have a budget of $25,000 a month. And you should feel really comfortable going and resetting those expectations with your client. One, gives you a great growth trajectory if that's where they want to go. And honestly, as long as you're achieving that $25 cost per lead and their closing percentage stays the same, they should be really excited to hand over that budget to you, which sets up a really nice opportunity for you to increase that recurring revenue that you're getting from the client by using their goals. If you're achieving that CPA goal and they need 100 new clients per month, they've got to invest $25,000 per month based on their closing percentage. So now that you've gone through and audited their performance, you've benchmarked their performance, and you've restructured the account and reset the expectations on the budget, it's time to convert them into revenue. So we, every year, not only benchmark all of the networks based on cost per click, conversion rate, and CPA, we actually go and interview and survey all of our agency customers, made up of about 1,300 agencies, to understand how they're charging and where they're seeing the most success. So we actually see that 58% of agencies are charging a setup fee of $1 to $999. We've got 25% charging $1,000 to $2,400. And then if you actually see what percentage they're charging on that recurring basis, 6% charging less than 10%, the majority there at 36% charging 10 to 15%. What we actually want to do is blend these two models together and charge that flat monthly recurring fee, giving us some stability plus the percentage. And what that does is it gives the level of certainty to us that we're going to be generating that monthly recurring revenue. It shows that the client is bought in, they're willing to work with us, and then we get an opportunity for growth as we help them scale. And as we mentioned earlier, we do want this to be a tiered system to stay competitive in the marketplace, allowing our agency's budget to grow. And if we've set up our campaign structure correctly, there's not too much additional work going into it. And if we've got the tools in place to manage that work, one, how much time we're investing, but two, how efficiently we're able to execute on it, we can really identify a great profit on these clients. The recommended budget that we've seen in the marketplace is a sliding scale that we've gone over briefly earlier, that allows a client to grow and allows us to continue to collect a reasonable fee but still stay competitive in the marketplace. So what we've got here is, hey, we should really be looking for clients that are investing $5,000 or more in ad spend across the networks that we're going to be managing. We should be charging them $1,000 flat fee plus a variable percentage, in this case 10%, with a scale that slowly declines in that percentage as they increase their spend. Again, the foundation for you as an agency is incredibly important. So when we start to talk about auditing and building that roadmap, it becomes increasingly more important to set up a specific campaign and ad group structure that's built for scale. Because as we increase the results, the client's going to ask us to increase the ad spend. The ultimate goal here is to increase the results, increase the ad spend, increase the revenue, and try to maintain that profit margin by saving us some time and building that groundwork for success through various levels of automation. And that really starts with understanding where your biggest time sucks are. We hear it every single month from our agency customers that reporting is a huge time suck for their CSM. They're spending over 5 hours per client per month on reporting. And that's across various networks, various services, but it's incredibly time consuming. We provide an automated report that takes just minutes. Once you have it set up once, you can actually have it set to email to your client on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or have it emailed to your CSM so that they're set up to go and take action on it and get it out to the client, but at least have that reminder so that it's done efficiently and effectively. But really, you want to try to automate these tasks that do not have a direct impact on the results and growth trajectory of your client. The other thing we've already talked about briefly is restructuring the accounts to ensure you can efficiently optimize on a weekly basis. That means you're properly labeling campaigns. I always see accounts with campaign 1 and campaign 2. I have no idea what's going on under there. But properly labeling campaigns and having them set up with a specific function allows your CSMs to quickly log in, know where they're supposed to go, navigate to that point, and take action. A couple other things that are great ways to just set up for efficiency is, hey, don't leverage broad match. Move it to modified broad match. It's going to lower that query volume. It's going to maintain a level of quality in the traffic that you're getting so that you don't have to scrape through every single negative keyword every single week. It's going to allow you to segment traffic effectively to each ad group, which is going to keep your data clean. And it's going to allow you, if benchmarked appropriately on the front end, to set up some automated bidding strategies. There are bidding tools out there in the world, but no one's got more data than Google, and no one's going to be able to beat Google in bidding strategies. But as an agency, you've got to set up that foundation appropriately to leverage those automated bidding strategies. And if you do, and if you're leveraging the right match type with the right max CPC set on each keyword, you can have a ton of success with automated bidding strategies, which is one of the second biggest time-consuming tasks for a CSM outside of something like reporting. So now that you've got the foundation built, you've got the weekly reporting, your CSM should be speaking and communicating with their clients weekly, if not bi-weekly. You want to be coming with new opportunities for growth that hopefully don't add any additional work. And one of the great opportunities out there for the majority of advertisers is to be able to take an AdWords account and put it on Bing. And from an agency's perspective, there's a nice growth opportunity there. You know, Bing is about 28% of the search market. And when you look at setting up a Bing account, you can easily export your AdWords campaigns. I always recommend taking the best ones or the ones that are going to fit Bing's target audience and upload them into there. It's about 20 to 25% of the USA desktop market share. It's getting 66 million PC searches that you can't reach on Google. You know, these are folks that have bought a PC, Internet Explorer is the default browser, and Bing's the default search engine. And there's a really nice opportunity for targeting on there as well. You know, it is a little bit older, more affluent buyer. It's a lot of homeowners. And it's amazing how often I see an agency managing a roofing or window or siding client that is only on AdWords. And Bing is a great expansion opportunity for them. And being 20 to 25% of the search market on desktops and a small chunk of mobile market, you've got a nice opportunity to increase spend by about 20% without really having to do significantly more work. And with a tool like WordStream that actually manages both networks simultaneously, every change you make to a negative keyword or a new long tail keyword or an ad is going to be able to be applied across network. So you can make 20% more if your client buys into spending that 20% more on Bing without adding any additional work. The other great news here is it makes your service significantly more sticky. It provides added value to the customer that they didn't come to you for initially, but they love that you're bringing that strategy to your weekly call and telling them new areas for exposure and expansion. So now that you've gone in and you've audited and you've structured appropriately and you've set your CSMs up for success, you've expanded your client to a new network, you always want to be zeroing in on results. And that goes with that weekly reporting. You know, how are things converting for me? And one next step that we see a lot of our agency clients taking, and you'll see this is kind of the biggest chart here of 65% of our agencies are also charging for landing page creation. 20% are charging for ongoing CRO, conversion rate optimization. That means, you know, constantly identifying and tweaking, you know, button calls to actions, colors, headlines, you know, looking at maybe implementing pop-ups or banners on the site to try to get that last-ditch effort to convert the great quality traffic that you sent there. So we decided, hey, let's build that tool into our software so that agencies can easily provide that added service that really takes, you know, a little bit of setup on the front end. You build 3 or 4 pages for the client, but provides a great long tail of results and allows you to charge for that ongoing conversion rate optimization, which is very easy to set up and build those pop-ups for the clients or set up a test and quickly alter an A/B on a landing page. So what does this mean for their results? Now, this is the great piece about adding this service in down the line is you've got untapped benefit that is going to be there as you optimize and build out these landing pages. So you'll notice here that we audited about 25,000 campaigns to look at performance overall. The average conversion rate across those 25,000 campaigns was 2.35. The top 25% of those campaigns was 5.31. Pretty darn good. The top 10%, this is pretty incredible. There's some significant outliers here in some of this, 11.45. You know, our founder, Larry Kim, this is unicorn status. And when you look at what these folks were doing differently, is they were cross-selling the right services and they were going and executing on that. So those awesome landing pages, that top 25% that were getting a 2x higher conversion rate, had gone and upsold landing page creation and created 4 landing pages for the client on the campaigns. Now, again, you set up one, You set up multiple tests. That got them a 2x higher conversion rate. The top 10%, they had 10 landing pages per campaign, and they were really testing these things out. And that was allowing them to constantly be shifting. Now, you have to charge a pretty nice premium to go and do this work, but there's great expansion opportunity for you there. And what's amazing about this expansion opportunity is it directly impacts the results of your client. As we talk about getting to that level of efficiency that allows you to continue to grow revenue and profitability, you've got to get them to increase their spend. And creating these landing pages is going to get them the results necessary to prove that value that you're providing, and really to prove those expansion opportunities and the growth in their account. So you want to look at a couple things, right? If we brought in this client that was spending $5,000 a month on AdWords, the average cost per click's, $520, the average conversion rate in the industry is 3.3, and we just went and doubled their landing pages, that conversion rate goes up to 6.6, right? Because we've gone in and we're testing 4 pages and we're really understanding what's working. Their lead flow goes from 32 to 64. Their revenue, really this is what they care about, and the value that you're providing, goes from 25,600 to 51,200. Now your CSMs are going to be really excited to have that weekly meeting with this client, and they're going to be really confident in their ability to go and pitch growth opportunities. And that might mean, again, going into new networks. It also might just mean turning up the dial on any campaigns that are limited by budget that you identify in your account audits. Once you've done all this, that recurring conversation with your client is what's going to lead to new growth opportunities. So don't ever forget to call your clients before they call you. Or it's always better to be dialing than hear the phone ringing. And that's the most important thing we want to emphasize here, is making sure that you're being proactive with your clients, not reactive.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Really appreciate it. Really enjoy attending all of these webinars because I feel like I end up learning something new each time. I don't have the same agency background as you and Jeff. I don't live and breathe it every day, but I get more and more insight into how we can help our shared customers make their agencies more profitable, more efficient, help their clients succeed, to be more proactive. We really covered a lot today. Where I tie into all of this is around the integrated partnership that we've set up with WordStream. Because Accelo is the operating system for agencies, we really focus on the operation side of the house to ensure that everybody's staying on task and that projects are being produced on budget and on time. And with our new integration to WordStream, we can help facilitate that and help all of our shared customers take action on everything that we've discussed today. Particularly, we've built this link between Accelo and WordStream in a way to facilitate the team's effort into producing ad campaigns, optimizing them, becoming more proactive from a customer success perspective. So you'll see a new link in Accelo in a couple of places that help across the organization. First is within the Accelo project template. Anytime one of your teams is building a new ad campaign, they can link from Accelo to WordStream to that specific client campaign. And the idea here is to really save minutes every day, hours every week, because your team can go from where they're running that project and managing those resources directly to WordStream where those campaigns are being set up. This alleviates the need to reach out to the project manager or your teammate about, hey, which client was it? Is this the right campaign? I lost my login. It can really help streamline that process. That's not the only thing that we can link to within WordStream. We can also take a look at those specific campaigns once they're set up to see how they're performing and how much of that budget has been spent to date. This helps not only in the project setup and the first few days of when that's rolling to make sure that all cylinders are firing,
But the CSMs can start to jump in here and give your existing clients some insights into those campaigns, whether they're new clients and you want to excite them with the performance, or they're existing clients and you're checking in and you're being proactive, as Zach mentioned. It's a lot easier to call your clients than it is to respond to their calls. Linking it on the company record within Accelo's CRM gives your leadership team the insight of how particular clients are performing at a macro level. So dropping into the different reporting tools to see the aggregate of ad campaigns on a customer level gives the ability to jump in, see how things are going, so you can really triage if things aren't quite to client expectation, or get them excited about all of the awesome performance that they've seen with your agency. And then finally, it's always great to tie the value that your agency is providing your clients through those campaigns, especially when you're talking about re-upping a retainer, sending out an invoice that are related to those campaigns. So through the deep links and through our custom fields, you can easily relay that campaign performance information to your clients when they're receiving their monthly, quarterly invoices, when you need to aggregate that pitch deck to retain a client on an annual retainer. We try to make it as simple as possible. Thanks everybody so much for the time that you've spent with us today. This has been a lot of fun. We're not quite done yet. We want to go through a Q&A with everybody, as we've got Jeff and Zach here still hanging out during the end of the webinar. So we're going to go ahead and take questions. If you can jump into chat. It looks like we probably have about 20 minutes here. We'll try to cover as many as possible. If we don't get to you, we will absolutely follow up with a direct response to your questions. I'll wrangle Jeff with the limited time he has, and I'm sure Zach won't have a problem jumping on a call or responding via email if the question is for WordStream. So if you guys want to start throwing those questions in, we'll tackle them one by one.